Okay, so I also wanted to show you just a quick primer on how to use the Form Workspace. So I showed you the sweep and loft tools and how we were able to make like some funky fresh forms with those. But what the Form Workspace has over sweep and loft is sweep and loft are parametric model options. You have history bar, you can capture history down here, you can go back and forth, and you have control no matter how far along in the project you are. This one was made using this form workspace, and where I use the same tools to split it, to add threads, to hollow it, and everything. But the form workspace has a lot more immediate shapeability options. It is the sculpting workspace. So, if you'd like to follow along, I'm going to start a new project. Doesn't, man, we'll do hybrid because this thing, I really wish it would keep with that. First thing, I'm going to save with in class quick form demo. Okay. So you can still work from sketches. You can, if you wanted to base your design off of sketches and anything like that, perfect. I'm going to start a sketch simply to give myself a frame of reference because we're gonna establish this project at a 150 by 60 millimeter wide reference point. Now remember, if I'm typing 150 to go up, width is radius, not diameter, radius. So I would need to type in like 30 for the width. You can make it a little bit bigger, that's okay, but don't go too crazy with that. And I'm going to double click that, turn it into a construction plane. I'm sorry, construction line. But that is absolutely just there for me to have a frame of reference. So with that, I'm going to use the form workspace. The form workspace is done under create or right here. Second one down, create form. It's this little pink gumball with a green plus. This is the sculpting workspace. And as it shows on here, it allows you to create general shapes that are divided up by faces that you can then manipulate. Now, like it says though, or like it says here, history-free bodies. It does not capture history, just the fact that you made a thing. That's it. So I'm going to click there, and you can see it brings up a whole new set of tools. Now, for what we're doing here, I'm just going to use the cylinder tool. It creates, any of these create just basic general shapes, basic geometric general shapes. Why do I have two spheres? Well, because one is a quad ball, and a quad ball is essentially a square that has been inflated to the point of being a sphere. Why is that relevant? Well, because instead of it having a two poles and longitudinal lines going up, going around the radius of its axes, it's more of like faces. So that's all. Just that. But if you go drop down, you have all the same things. You have pipe, like we just talked about, with using a path, and it generates around a shape. You have extrude, you have revolve, you have sweep, you have loft. The difference being, you see all the little faces within those? Those are all manipulatable, but those are also all things you have to control. You can control them all, but you also have to keep them all under control. So it very quickly can get way out of hand. So I'm just going to start with a basic cylinder. Just like we've started cylinders in the past, I'm going to select the XY plane, start in the center, and because I know I want to make it a 60 millimeter thingy, we'll go 60, and then I'll drag up to 100. Now, what are all the other tools here? These are all, oh, I said 120, didn't I? Whatever, 100, 120, doesn't matter. These are all how you can add complexity. The name of the game with the form workspace, keep it simple. Keep it simple first, and you can add complexity later. These sliders allow you to add and subtract faces, and these allow you to add and subtract vertical faces. Keep it simple. The default was like 8. And height, let's keep that simple at like 5, maybe even 4. Treat these as, like when we're making the loft, treat these as your different sketch planes. How many sketches did you need to create that shape? think of that same way here. I have many of them. Now, the problem is I clicked away, so it automatically accepted it. That's okay. You can't go back and change the number of faces directly. You can either delete it and restart it, or we can add them later. But that's okay. We're going to leave it right there. The main thing to remember with Form Workspace is all of these points are connected and move with each other. But what I want to do for this part is, because I'm working the circle, I want to turn on symmetry. I could have done it right when I was creating this, but I clicked away. You could have done it at the bottom of the screen. As you look at the top here, symmetry, drop down, there's mirror, internal, which means like within an object, you have left and right or top and bottom mirroring, that kind of thing. So if you're gonna make the same. Circular allows you to create something radially symmetrical, like a lantern. The other ones are for making like mirror duplicates. So if I wanted to have like my mirror copy, definitely the one with the evil goatee, me without, whatever. But you can't do that because they're both going to be evil, because they're both going to be the exact same thing. Anyhow, and then circular would be just madness. But in this case, let's do just circular symmetry. So I'm going to select my object, but what's it asking me? Select faces. I select one. What the hell is it showing me? It's showing me options. If I select where it says 2, it will be symmetrical, and you can see a little green line. By the way, the color of this, it being like turquoise, is incidental. It's just one of the automatic color thing. If I turn that off, you get exactly the same thing. So now it would be symmetrical left and right. Or if I select the other, the 4-sided one, you can see now I have 4 sides. So I basically have front, back, left, right. Or I can go 8 sides, and I have like just all the symmetry. So whatever you want, but I'm going to click all 8. Now the trick to this is, though, if I move this around now, that's going to do the exact same thing all around, and I won't have much control. But now we're going to kind of treat like we did with the sweep, twisting back and forth, things like that. We can do that with this now. But we have to do it by the faces and stuff. So I'm going to go to create form or edit form here. That's under modify. It's the top one, edit form. And there's so many things here, but we're going to select. There's all these different things. Don't worry about those right now. Your selection filter will allow you to select by vertice, which is where any of those faces or any of those edge lines connect, by the edge lines themselves, or by the faces. So I can only select the edge lines here, or by faces, I can only select the big old faces. We're going to ignore any of those. I'm just going to use the edges for now. So if I select, let's say, that one by double click, or I can just select the one and the symmetry is going to keep me on task there. Now I can move these left and right, but you see it's doing some real funky things. But because I'm right in the middle and the symmetry is on, it's actually just twisting everything. I would get the same result by rotating. That's what I mean by there's a lot in here, so be cautious.
It's like in the hill, and you like slightly lesser.
This is where Fusion or any other CAD software will start to eat up your computer resources.
Well, this is when you try and hit finish form. Oh yeah, that's where it gets.
We'll get there. So for now, what I want to do, and I'm going to show you the different way. If I select here or the outside, one of the problems is you see, or if I just select the outside one, you see my center of controls, all of these different controls, it's way on the outside. But if I double click on it, it smacks it in the middle. That's what I want. Now, you've got a couple of different things, and I want you to pay attention to these. Within that gimbal, I'm going to refer to it as a gimbal, you have axes, you have arrows on top, and then you have these bars. Those are the main ones. The arrows, that's my red one, that's right in my pocket. Arrows go, obviously, up, down, left, right, whatever it's controlling. These are your scale tools. You can freeform scale one direction and type 1. Or the little curve is 2 direction. So these are your non-uniform scales. And unfortunately, the gimbal doesn't grow and subtract or grow and shrink with your zooming in. But as you can see, if I mouse over one of the flat ones, it stretches one direction. Now I'm getting some weird results because I have radial symmetry on. But if I select the curvy bit, it's going to grow and shrink in one direction. Pretty cool. In the center is a 3-arrow version. That is your three-dimensional uniform scale. So if you select something and select by that, it's going to grow and shrink the whole thing. Now, right now, I just have this one rung selected, so it doesn't really control much. But if I were to say select multiple rings, now if I use the scale tool, it's going to grow and shrink those two evenly, but you see they're keeping the same vertical distance. But if I use the uniform scale, it shrinks and grows in all directions. You get some weird stuff. The other tool is the rotate, these axes. And that's just grab it and rotate the whole thing. Well, I'm working with a cylinder, and rotating a cylinder doesn't exactly do too much. But this is where we can start playing with actually adding some real funkiness. How I made this one is I added some lines between. Yes.
At this point, with the form having been created, is the timeline in effect now? Like we can undo, redo timeline stuff, modifications of?
Good question. Is the timeline in effect now? As I've been making these alterations, nothing is being added to my timeline. You have the only time controls you have is your undo and redo. So I've been undoing and redoing Control Command Z Y. That's it. If you finish this and save, now you're cut off, or you save and exit the program, come back later. Now you're cut off from Control Z and Control Y. So you only have this. Now, the idea is you would either finish in this time or you're just going to continue forward. That's all. So in order to add some complexity to this, what I need are lines between these lines. So what I'm going to do is I need to add lines. So under Modify, and it's actually this symbol here, Insert Edge, and what it does is it just literally inserts an edge, one of these lines. So I'm going to select that one. I'm going to double click on one of my green lines, and now you see it's adding something right here. I want them on both sides, so I'm going to switch to both. This looks a little complicated, but essentially I have my main line, and it's just adding additional edge lines to both sides. Because I have symmetry on, it's going to do it to all of them. Hit OK. Now I have a lot more complicated stuffs. That's fine, because now I can actually do something with this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my edit form. I didn't need to double click that. I was just stuck on it. Doesn't matter if you click your symmetry line or one of the ones in between. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that inward. And now you can see how I'm creating that star shape. Because I have the line and the line between. You have to think about when you're bending something. I don't have a bit of wire. That'll work. You can't just bend the wire. It's going to you can't make a sharp bend. It's just going to flop around. But if you have a second bend, second point, now I can bend it. Kind of the same thing. If I have this whole length, if I have something in the middle, now I can actually shape it. Not a great analogy, but it gets closer. Just that simple bit, now I have more control. Okay, now I just made the star shape. Now I can go through and add and shrink and grow the rest, because I just wanted to create that little bit. Now bring back the edit form. Let's grab that one, scale up. Sound effects are up to you. scaling back and forth, or from above, I can rotate, but be careful. You go too much, self-intersection, utter collapse. So don't go too far with it. That's why we're doing like 15 or 20 degree increments. I would do this numerically just to kind of keep an eye on it. And I'm just going back and forth and doing exactly what I did before. Let's rotate. And we'll go the other way. Negative 15, or that would be, I need to do negative 30. There we go, that kind of thing. So this is how you can very quickly start to create some much more wavy shapes. Now, the problem is, if I hit OK, and all we did was just play with insert edge, which adds the edge lines, and edit form, which just allows us to play with it. This is the part where it gets leery. So, save. Form test, great. Go to finish form, and this is where either your computer screams at you or it doesn't. Now, one problem here is I didn't actually add anything. All I did was I basically built a cylinder that only had a wall thickness of the wall. If I could make this into a cylinder, no top and bottom. So it's not a solid shape. It's just this edge. And you can see on the design, see how it's got this gold shape color inside, or better yet, open the bodies, this symbol, this orange sheet of paper wrapped around, it's only a surface thickness wide. So I need to actually cap this, but I did want to see if it would fail. So I'm just going to go back in, but to the edit form, but you can see no history is being captured. That's the issue. So go back in, and I'm just going to add a top to this. The top, adding a top and bottom, is modify, fill hole. It's very direct. Fills a hole. So I'm going to select an edge at the top and double click. And now it's going to automatically try to do some things. So one quick thing I want to show you. Why is it showing like a weird ghost image? Because form does not capture history. That's how it shows you what just was. So you at least have some frame of reference of what you're looking at. That's all. The new action one is this weird lumpy version. You have a couple of options up here. On the toolbox, these just cycle through different patterns as it closes up. Reduce star, I don't like. Fill star, that apparently it doesn't like. Collapse seems more reasonable. The other option is keep crease, so instead of it being rounded, if I want it to stay sharp, that'll work. Weld some vertices, I would definitely do, because it fuses everything at the top. Now, normally, fill star actually works very well. In this case, apparently, not so much. So we're going with collapse. That keeps it flat, keeps a star shape right in the middle. Hit OK. Repeat for the bottom, because it doesn't do it on both sides. Double click, and it should save all my presets. Great. Now I have created a solid whole object or an enclosed object. Now we get to test, finish form. See how much slower it's going now. I'm going to pause here. All right, so it failed to convert. And you have two options. Continue, it's just going to not do anything. Or return. Return and turn around and fix your mistakes. All right, fine. So how do we fix those? What the hell we do? We go to Utilities, Repair Body. Select the body, try Auto Repair. It did. So, pooper doodles. So what I have found, the issue was that I ran into before, the issue was it was too sharp. This corner here, I made that too sharp. And I don't mean when I put the cap on, I mean the edited shape. So let's try OK. And if, say, you saved this and came back to it, well, how do I undo this stuff? You don't undo it. You have to delete stuff. So I'm just going to double click on the top. Well, that selects everything. I don't want that. This part gets tedious if I have to select all the things on top. I can try to select from the right and select everything. That is going to select the bottom too, but you know, whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. Let's just delete those. And we know that worked. So what we can try, let's see about making this top or bottom a little bit less sharp. So something like, excuse me, Let me go back to the edit form. I'm going to select the whole top ring here with just the edges selected. And I'm just going to scale it up a little bit. Maybe that'll fix. Nah, that looks worse. Let's try the other version and scale it down. Where'd my gimbal go? There we are. Let's try scaling it down a little bit. Maybe toward the front. I'm not sure. Now we're going to get into the fun of it. Try the fill hole again. All right. Keep creases. Problem is, it was showing us before test, but it's not letting me. So let's try that. All right, weird. That worked. It added a whole lot of faces. Bottom still open. So maybe we go back in. Maybe this time the bottom was fine before, or the top was the issue. I don't know. Go back in, fill hole. Do it again. Okay, apparently the top was the problem and it did just fine on the bottom. I don't know. Very strange. Ultimately, unfortunately, you have all these faces. These don't mean anything. That's just the geometry of how it had to chop things up to make it make sense for the program, but it worked. So it seemed like it wasn't that much work, but at the same time, yeah, that was kind of a lot of steps. All I just did is just did that, or made this quick form, and now I can repeat doing exactly the same steps to create my thread, my recess, my threads, and shell on the whole thing. All of those steps work exactly the same. I just used a different tool, which was essentially a sweep that I was able to augment just using the Form Workspace to create the shape. So play around with it. If you run into trouble, if you give you errors, first, always save before you go to finish form. Always save. And then if it gives you that bad allocation error, it's because of this transition. Step back, do them one at a time. If one works and the other doesn't, well, fiddle around with the other. There you go. Hopefully it fixes for you. But again, as you can see, there's no additional history being captured by the history bar. And that's just one of the issues you have with form space. Yes.
If you wanted to be a nut, could you use the saves as your history bar?
You use the saves in your history bar. Yeah, kind of, because that's what the versions are for. Where's my, there we go. So I only saved the one time because I should have saved several times between. But yes, you can go back and you can make those alterations that way. You can always use that. The other thing you can always try is if you were unsure if it's going to work, or you really want to make sure if this works, great, or I want to try something else, instead of just directly saving, remember you can always go with save as and just make a duplicate and split them off. So at that point, you just have two different files. But that's the only thing. So yeah, good question. Can you use the versions as saves? Yeah, absolutely. One quick also word when you're doing the sculpting with this stuff, we'll play with it more later. I also highly recommend don't just use the perspective workspace. Switch your views to multi-view. So down at the bottom here, the multi-view, or press Shift 1 and all four views at once. That way, when you are working, so like if I was going back in and using the edit form to say I want to keep playing with like these lines or anything, I can look at the side, but I can also look at the top at the same time and have a little bit more control. And also it's just a little bit fewer steps to have to jump back and forth. All right, let me select this. Now let me orbit around. Let me select this. Let me orbit around. Let me select this. Let me orbit around. This might be more convenient to work in, the multi-view version. That is 100% preference. It's up to you. It's just a way to work. Hey, it worked again. Okay, so that's the only things. Fun way to play. Good luck with it.